This episode is sponsored by Kendo UI. Kendo UI allows you to build better apps faster. They have a comprehensive library ranging from data grids and charts to buttons and sliders. Plus, you can use their components as plain JavaScript as well as in Angular, React, and Vue. They have a large collection of customizable popular themes like Bootstrap and Material. Go check them out at reactroundup.com/KendoUI. Hey everybody, and welcome to another React Roundup episode. This week on our panel we have Justin Bennett.
Hi everyone.
Lucas Heisch.
Hello everyone.
Nader Devitt.
Hello.
I'm Charles Max Wood from devchat.tv. And this week our guest had his computer crash and it looks like he's just not going to be able to get on. So we're just going to have a quick conversation about finding your dream job, which is something that I've been working on a product for. And yeah, just to start out, I'm really curious with you all, what does a dream job even mean?
For me, it's kind of like having a job where you wake up in the morning and you look forward to going to work as opposed to like not wanting to go to work. If you want to make it as general as possible.
Fair enough. I mean, that's generally it. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that are in the book. So if I say in my book a lot, I apologize. But in the book, I actually talk about this a lot. And that's generally the idea, right? Is you spend so much time there, you want to be happy doing what you're doing. What do you think, Lucas?
Yeah, I have a similar position. I think that dream jobs, they may change depending on your life moment. Like, I believe that sometimes you want a job that challenges as much as it gets so you can grow and learn a lot. Sometimes you're in a moment in your life where you want a job that is more, more calm and secure. So I think it changes from person to person and from time to time in your life. But mainly like a job that you feel that after like some months there, you're like a better person, like you're always growing, a place that lets you always grow as a person, as a professional, as everything. I think that's the sweet spot.
You're talking about some of the things that I put into the book, but I found after talking to a lot of people that the things that you're talking about, some of those matter more to some people than others. And it's interesting to see where people draw that line. Well, what do you think, Justin?
So my idea of a dream job has always been something that like has some sort of impact, some sort of hopefully positive impact on the world. So, I mean, it is this like huge investment of our time. And, you know, earlier in my career, I just like wanted to build myself up and like get as much skills as possible. But now that I'm kind of like settling out and growing in more like leadership roles and things like that, I'm thinking more about like, what is my impact on the world? What is my footprint? All this time that I'm spending, what am I doing? So, for example, my last job was mostly advertisement. And, you know, I'd wake up every day and it'd be like, you know, the ultimate end goal of success at my job is to drive more eyeballs to advertisement. Is like, is that what I really want to be doing? And eventually that answer was no. So I had to find something that had like a mission and vision that I actually thought made the world a better place. And so when I think about jobs, that's what I want. I want some positive impact to society.
Yeah, and I love that. And that really lines up with what I'm looking for as well. For me personally, I really was thinking about this and, you know, what am I trying to do with DevChat? Because I've been doing this for so long, right? And it's, okay, I'm going to go grind on podcast production, right? Why the heck am I doing this? You know, it's a lot of work. Sometimes it's not always fun. And that's what I came to as well, was that I realized that I wanted to, for me, it's just personal freedom and then making a difference. And so, you know, on both ends of things, that's what I came to for DevChat was essentially, and this is a recent development, but the mission statement for devchat.tv is liberating developers so that they can build cutting edge software that makes a difference. And,
that's great.
You know, that really hits like all of the things that matter to me. And everybody kind of winds up in that position where, you know, right now my big problems might be financial. And so my salary might be the big thing. Or, you know, maybe I have a family member that has health problems. And so having a good health insurance plan is a major thing. And I tell people, so I ask a bunch of questions in the book and then essentially say, look, you get to pick three. You know, what are your big three that are going to make the big difference for you? And for some people, it is going to be I get to make a difference, or I get to contribute, or I get to solve hard problems, or there are all kinds of reasons. But once you know that, then it changes your whole perspective on finding a job, because then it's not, I'm going to send my resume around to everybody. It's, I'm going to go find the companies that are doing what matters to me, and then I'm going to apply there. And then what you can do is then you can start doing a more targeted job search. So then it's not, so I'm just going to send my resume to those companies, but then it's, thinking about it, it's a lot easier to get hired if I know the hiring manager, or if I know some of the programmers that work at the company, or things like that, right? And so then it's, how do I get noticed by these people, and how do I start to, impact the equation that way, so that when I actually come across their desk, or my resume comes across their desk, it comes across their desk with an endorsement, or with some kind of, hey, this person's really great, or whatever. And this is especially true if you don't have anything else to sell them, meaning that you're a really new developer. And so that's kind of the focus. I'm curious, since you're all fairly experienced folks, of the last few jobs that you've gotten, how have you found those jobs? How have those worked out, as far as both lining up with what you want and your ability to actually get into those jobs?
So
I'm interested to hear about the artsy process, actually.
Oh yeah,
How you got with artsy, because we were talking about, there's this guy that I know really well named Orta Therox, and I know he works with you at artsy, and he's like a really big React Native person, and the whole team actually at artsy is. So I'm kind of curious how you got to work with them.
Yeah, so early in my career, honestly, recruitment or recruiters was like how I kind of got my foot in the door. And I leaned on them pretty heavily, just because they could filter in a lot of opportunities, and I could kind of pick from that kind of what I wanted to do. So I used that to like really build myself up. And then after that, like I really focused on, getting to what we're talking about now. It's just like figuring out, all right, where do I want to work? But for artsy, it was just kind of a happy coincidence. So I try to pay attention to like what's going on. Like, I check like GitHub jobs. I check Twitter. I just like keep my eye open. If there's something on Hacker News, something that seems like an interesting opportunity. And that's kind of what happened with artsy is Orta one day just kind of posted, it's like, hey, I'd like to have lunch with somebody and talk about JavaScript. And I was like, okay, I want to have lunch with you. And that was basically how I kind of got in the door at artsy, is just like through that first conversation. I will say that artsy is a little bit unique in that we value personal relationships and connections, and that's how we like to hire primarily. We really like it to have people that you know, or that you think a lot of. We'll reach out to people that contribute to major open source projects and be like, hey, we love your work, we'd love to talk to you sometime. And maybe that doesn't come from like they don't start working at artsy, but we still try to build on those relationships. So a lot of the hiring that we do is kind of from relationships. Now, granted, we're all obviously open if people want to join, and we are hiring, so there's that. But yeah, it's more of a kind of a relationship-driven thing.
I have to say that most companies are that way. They're just a little more chaotic about it because they don't realize they're that way. They'll hire the people they know, and then they'll go hire the people they don't know. And so, in your case, going to lunch with Orta, I mean, that really sets you up to get this job.
Yeah.
And one of the things I outlined in the book is essentially doing the research, figuring out what company you want to work for, and then finding somebody at that company and inviting them to lunch.
Yeah. One of the things I would say for like more junior people is don't be afraid to reach out to people. The people that you see on GitHub doing crazy things, or on Twitter doing crazy things, or on Medium doing crazy things, they're just people. You can reach out to them. If they're in your area or you can get to them, they'll probably will have lunch with you if they have the time. And these are resources, these are opportunities, and take advantage of them. And even if a job doesn't come from it, there could be a relationship that's formed from that could really help you further down the line. And also keep in mind that you're not just like kind of trying to leech off of them and just get opportunities. Also kind of think about like what you can contribute back, and like, because like if you really work on relationship building, it can definitely redefine the path of your career.
Yeah, well, and the way that you're going to be the most effective, even if you are trying to network with people to get a job, is by being that authentic person, right? So if you're just in it to try and sell them on getting you a job, they'll see right through it. But if you're in it specifically because it's, hey, look, they're an interesting person anyway. And so, if I have a good conversation and learn some things about, whatever in the process, then, that's makes a difference. Lucas, how did you wind up where you're at?
Yes, this is interesting. So when I moved to the United States about a year ago, I was working at B2W back in Brazil, which is a really big e-commerce company there. So the first thing that I thought was like, which places will I contribute well? Like I have all this knowledge about e-commerce, about front end and stuff. So on one hand, I tried to understand where I would have a great impact. Which places can I call and say like I can help you, because like I know a bunch of those stuff. And on the other hand, like which places I would like to go. So there are some markets that I'm not interested in. There are some markets that I'm definitely interested in. So now at ZocDoc is health tech market. So it's a really interesting mission. Like I want to help people like 100% and make and help their health. So it was a good combination of and the website is very like e-commerce like. So I thought like, okay, this is a good opportunity because I know I can contribute, and it's a mission that I really enjoy. So I reached out. One friend of mine, he said that he knew someone from inside the company, and they referred me, and that's when the conversation started. So I think it's a mix of those. Like, what can I contribute? Like, which places does my skill set helps? And even if we're really junior, usually people that are not junior, they have a time problem. Usually, time is your problem. When you're really junior, money is really your problem, but time is not. Usually you have a bunch of time. So that's how you can contribute. So even if you don't have, you can't say like I can solve the business problems in your company because you don't have experience, you can help someone with their documentation of their open source libraries, things like that. Because when you're young, you have time. And that's it. So I think everyone can find their skill set, things that they can contribute with, and try to leverage on both sides. Try to find the places where you want, and try to find the places where you can contribute. And in this intersection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of get it in their head that they can't contribute. And it's really interesting. You can find a lot of information out about a company and figure out, what you have to offer.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to get in the mindset. I mean, even as senior engineers, sometimes we undervalue ourselves, and it's really easy to do. And when I'm talking to like friends who are like trying to break into the industry, I kind of really encourage them to just like keep track of what they work on, like keep track of the things that they build. And you'll quickly realize over time, like how much that is. But, that's kind of a really important thing though. So, when you go into a job, a lot of times they're going to ask you about an old project. Like, what have you worked on recently? What's kind of been an exciting thing, and like not keeping track of that can be difficult to answer some of those questions, or you might just like throw something off the cuff that maybe wouldn't have been the best example. So like definitely keep track. Also, it can be a good resume item. Some of those projects might be like really kind of epitomized the thing that you want to work on. So like really building that out can help.
Yeah. The other thing is it also shows a certain eagerness to learn and a certain ability to take the initiative on projects. If you're doing that, one thing that I encourage people to do at the very beginning of the book is to contribute something to GitHub every day. And that way that contribution tracker that you has on your profile page shows regular contributions. And from there, it makes it easier for a lot of the employers to just say, oh, look, they're consistently doing something, even though they may not have a job, or they may only contribute to the corporate source code which is all private, so it won't show up on the contributions list. It's like, look, they're making open, available, visible contributions. And you can also then use that and parlay that into, well, I heard you were using Webpack, a custom Webpack setup. And so I decided that if I wanted this job, I should probably learn it too. And that shows some initiative. It shows that you're interested in the job. And it does a lot of things for you as far as that goes, to be able to make those contributions that they want.
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious about Nether. How did you get the gig you're now on?
Yeah, so the job that I have is developer advocate, and it's a really fun job. So it's kind of like what I was doing like in my spare time was like speaking and writing and doing blog posts. And now I get to kind of do that as my full-time job. So for me, it's kind of the dream job. But like the way I got connected with them was they were building out this project called AWS Amplify, and they were building out some React Native stuff. And I met someone that was on the team, and since AWS Amplify is open source, they asked me like my opinion on something, and I ended up helping them build out a demo project, kind of like in my free time. So I spent a couple of weeks building it out, submitted the pull request, and they liked it and everything like that. And then after that, they reached out to me saying, hey, like we have this position that's open, like, are you interested? So kind of like what you all were talking about earlier about contributing or building stuff and doing stuff. That's kind of how I got my foot in the door with them. And I just, had the couple of interviews and stuff, and then it kind of went from there. But I would say that the main thing that I would recommend, and the things that have paid off for me, I think Justin was talking about having your work like be in the public, but basically just learning in public. And that basically means like every time you do anything, like create a new GitHub repo and just put it there, even if it's not that impressive. Over time, you'll end up with this huge like amount of work that you've done, and it just makes you stand out. And really, it's about standing out when you're looking to get a job, because there's going to be inevitably, dozens of people that are going to have the same opportunity for you for a certain position, and you want to be the one that they want versus you don't want to have to sell yourself. You're if you can kind of make your body of work stand on its own, then you kind of have to do less work and you get more opportunities, and you can probably make a little more money as well. Yeah. And then, not only GitHub, but, writing seems to be a good thing to do. Like for most people, I hear that they have good experience as far as like getting jobs when they actually start blogging and stuff.
Do you run your own freelance business? Or maybe you're thinking about picking up some business on the side? Well, then you need FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the quickest and easiest way to get invoices out to your clients. It's easy to use. It works anywhere, available from any device on the desktop, iPhone, iPad, Android, and all of your data is backed up and secure. And it makes it really easy to get organized and get paid. You'll be tracking time, logging expenses, and invoicing your clients in no time. You can also save time billing, freeing up several days per month to focus on the work that you love, and you get paid faster. FreshBooks customers are paid on average 5 days faster because there's a link on the invoice that says pay me now. And it's a great way to grow your business. Plus, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day trial. That's right, 30-day trial if you try them out. So go to gofreshbooks.com/devchat and enter devchat in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Once again, for a 30-day trial, go to gofreshbooks.com/devchat and enter devchat in the How Did You Hear About Us section.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a lot of people having that same opportunity, and that's true if they list the job publicly. But if you can get to know people and then get in the gate before they list the job, then you compete with a much smaller pool of people. But everything else you said is spot on.
One thing, Charles, from the other side. So now I've been doing a lot of interviewing now. So now I've been interviewing, and a lot of times we want to hire people, but we can't. Like a lot of times it's like there's no open position for that particular skill set, for the particular. So one interesting thing, I don't know if you talk about that in your book, is like even when you have an initial no, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to work for that company. Maybe it's like like some months in advance, everything will work out. How to deal with that? Like how do you know that part from the other side?
I mean, again, it comes down to the relationship, right? If you have a good relationship, a good working relationship with the other folks, then you can make that work to your advantage and just stay in touch. I mean, how do I put this? So generally people in your position, Lucas, where you're trying to hire somebody, you're super busy, right? Because you're essentially working down a person, right? And so they're not going to keep up with you, to let you know, okay, we opened up the job, unless they really, really wanted you in the first place and they're actively looking to find a place for you. And that happens sometimes. But most of the time, it doesn't. Most of the time, they're just going to wait until HR allows them to open up the position, and then they're going to, and so if you continue to follow up, every couple of weeks or something, that does a lot. And most people won't feel like you're bothering them. Most of the time, they're just going to be like, oh, they really do want to work here. But then the other piece of that is, let them know that you're building up your abilities, right, to line up better with that job. Hey, we don't know if we have a position open that can take advantage of your skill set. Well, what skill set are you looking for? Okay, hey, this week I worked on this project. I added these couple of things in that you said that I was lacking into my project. And if you show enough initiative, a lot of times they're going to look at you and go, you know what? They don't have everything they need, but man, they're sure willing to learn it. And so you just give them a lot of reasons to hire you. Mm-hmm. And then just be around, right? The other thing that I put forward, I'm terrible at selling the book, right? Because I give away all my secrets on these shows. But go into the office periodically. Go to lunch with them. Go see if they have an open desk. Hey, can I just come work on open source in your office? And if they see you around and they continually hear about what you're working on and things like that, it's going to set you up so that they either decide that they can overlook whatever shortcomings you have, and say, okay, well, we're going to give you this position even though you don't, quote unquote, qualify for it. Or when the position does open up, you're around, you're right there. And so they don't even go list the thing. They're just like, oh, yep, that guy, perfect for it. And they hire you.
That's great. Yep.
So the other thing that I think is interesting in this kind of taking a deeper dive into these opportunities, instead of just like sending your resume in, but actually investing in relationships and really trying to get in the door, is it'll pretty quickly tell you whether you really want to work there, or whether you're looking for an opportunity. So if you're not excited to work there, you're not going to want to put in all that work.
Yep.
And that's really telling. Not that it's a bad thing to just like want an opportunity, especially if you're junior and you're just trying to grow, just searching for kind of any opportunity you can get is okay. But, having something that excites you enough where you really want to build relationships with the people and you really want to get in the door, it'll be both telling for your kind of growth path, like where you want to go. It'll show you kind of the companies you would like to work for. And also from the other side, when people are interviewing you, they'll feel it. They can tell when you're talking to them, when you're having coffee with them. It's definitely a different experience. So if you want to work at a place enough to do that, then definitely, go all in, because it can be a very rewarding relationship.
Yeah, just to add on to that, Natter talked about standing out. And, you're talking about, hey, if you really want this position, then you'll do this kind of thing. And to me, those are kind of the same thing, right? Because this is stuff that nobody does. Like nobody goes to this level of effort to get a job at a particular company. And so if you're doing the kinds of things that nobody else is doing, they'll know that you're really interested in it. And if you're telling them why, then it gives them reasons to get behind you when you start looking for those opportunities.
Do you think this apply even to like the big companies? Like I see a lot of people like they want to work like in Google, Facebook. Does this techniques, do you think they apply, or they need some changes when people want to go to these big ones?
Well,
I think they apply for sure because the thing is, like, when you think of these big companies, you stop thinking of these companies as actual people, but really when you get down to it, it's just people. So like if you can, Charles said, find a way to meet these people, then you build a relationship with them and then they get to know you, and then like you have a much better chance of getting hired. And I think the best place to do that. And the easiest way to do that is through meetups, and also just finding people that work there. And like Justin mentioned, these people that you see on Twitter and GitHub and Medium and things that you might look up to are just normal people. And most of the time they really like to help other people. And that's what I've found. So if you're willing to put yourself out there, and you might get rejected or not hear back from a couple of them, but overwhelmingly you're going to get a response, and overwhelmingly that response will be positive. And just building relationships is what it's all about.
Yeah, overall it depends on the company, and some of the bigger companies have very stringent HR policies as far as how and who they hire. But, like Nader said, they're all made of people. Companies are made of people. And so if you can get the people on board, a lot of times they have some discretion as far as waiving some of that process and things. And so even if you find out, and I don't know if this is true of like Facebook or anything, but let's say Facebook, for example, let's say that they're one of these companies that has a really stringent policy. If you go in and you make your case, right, and then they'll go to HR and they'll say, look, this person doesn't have, the level of experience or college degree or whatever it is that they've decided that is part of their policy, but we really feel like they'll make an impact, they'll go to bat for you. And so, you just go out of your way to stand out, like we talked about, and give them reasons to go do that. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but at least then they can come back and if they say, look, we really want to hire you, but the company insists on these things, then at least The other thing is if they can't hire you for procedural stuff, they'll usually become your advocate for something else. And so if they know of another company that works out well for you, or that they think you would really thrive at, or they know the hiring manager, or, down the road at Google or whatever, then they'll put in a good word for you and they'll go to bat for you there because they feel badly that you were the candidate that they wanted and they couldn't hire you anyway.
That's interesting. Yeah, and also, one other subject that I find interesting in that regard is you sometimes you think you want to work for a company, and how do I gather information that I actually like? Is this the correct decision? Like I've been in a situation where I was in an interview, and in the middle of the interview, I realized that was not the right thing to do. So how do you get that like, how do I get more information? Right. You said that it's key that I know which companies I want to go. Like, how do I get more information to really know if that's the case, or even like discover new things that I didn't know?
Right. So in the book, I basically outline how to find your top three, is what I call them, your top three in finding a job. And so, for a lot of people, salary is going to be one of those top three. And then, if you've had a bad experience with a boss or corporate culture or something, that those might make your top three, right? So you know what those three things are that you just aren't willing to negotiate on, and then you can start to formulate the questions around that. What do I care about, and how do I find it out? The best place to find most of this stuff out is people who work for the company. And so again, going back to building relationships with people in the company, get interested in them, and then you can ask them all kinds of questions about the company. And you can start to find out, so I hear there's an open position. So-and-so is the team lead. What are they like? How does that team operate? If that's one of your issues. Or, what's the corporate culture? What kind of hours they expect you to work? And so you can start asking them these questions, and you can get an idea of what that looks like. And most companies expect you to be asking these questions anyway. So when you go in for an interview, or if you show up at the office, one of my tricks is I tell people, print off your resume, go into the home office and ask for the person doing the hiring and hand deliver your resume, and then just chat with them for a minute and get to know them a little bit. So if you're doing that, again, you can kind of ask questions. You also kind of get to see the lay of the land. Is it an open office? Do they have cubicles? All that kind of stuff that you're going to find out. But you put yourself in a position to find that information out from the people who are actually there. And then you can also get a lot of information, especially if your top three include things like salary and benefits and stuff like that. A lot of that information is on Glassdoor.com. And so you go into Glassdoor.com and you enter your, to get access to all the information, you actually have to put in past work information. But yeah, people have entered their salaries anonymously. People have left feedback on the benefits. And so it's like, yeah, we got all these days for time off, and, things like that. You can also ask them who their health insurance provider is and, what plan they're on. And then you can go look that up and make sure it covers your doctor or whatever, if you really care about that. But anyway, so you can figure that stuff out as far as like salary and benefits. But the rest of it, am I going to hate myself for working with these people? You can't find that out without actually talking to people. And so, yeah, again, going back to earlier in the conversation, you go figure out who works at the company. I use LinkedIn for that, actually. I go into LinkedIn. You can do a people search. You can say people who work at this company, and then you just connect with them. You send them a message, and it's like, hey, look, I've done a little bit of research on your company. It looks like a great place to work. I was wondering if I could buy you lunch and ask you a few questions. And then you just have that conversation with them over lunch, and you ask them those questions and find out. But then it costs you whatever lunch costs, $10, $20 to find out, what, I really don't want to work there. And so you put your effort towards somebody else, or you find out this place is perfect for me. And then that's also equally valuable, because then you can double down on your efforts. But yeah, you got to talk to people who work at the company. That is easily the best way to find out. And if you're remote, what I recommend to people is that you set a time a week out and you just say, hey, look, I'm going to buy you coffee virtually. Now, I'm Mormon. I don't drink coffee, but you get the picture, right? I'll go get a hot chocolate at Starbucks. But then you mail them a $5 Starbucks card or something. And that way they're totally willing to jump on and talk to you for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, because you did something nice for them. And, just have the conversation over Google Hangouts or whatever, and just do the same thing.
Another good thing to think about, while this isn't directly related to getting hired, but as you're reaching out to these people, especially if they're people you admire or they're working in jobs that you would like to be in, even if you aren't able to get the job, keep them in mind as a potential mentor, somebody who can maybe open other doors, someone who you can learn from. Someone who can, potentially challenge you to grow or challenge you to do certain things to maybe bridge the gaps that maybe prevented you from getting that job or maybe prevents you from getting another job. It's something that I think is underrated a little bit, but like having a good mentor can really open a lot of doors. So as you're talking to people, as you're building relationships, which you should be doing, really focus on, is this somebody who I could build a relationship and then who could help me, go further in my career. And again, like a mentor-mentee relationship, it's a give and take. If you're just wanting something and that's how you approach the conversation, it's going to show through, and that's a little disingenuous. You should be kind of open to learn and really interested in the person and, interested in helping them in some way. Just keep that kind of open mind as you're going into these relationships.
Yeah, I agree. And, as far as some of the mentorship goes, some of it could be as simple as, hey, I wasn't able to get hired at your company, but I interviewed at this other company and they seemed really keen on this technology I've never heard of before. What's your opinion on it? And then they can give you a really quick assessment on that. You know what, they're crazy to require that, or, that's a really old technology. It's probably not worth your time. Or, hey, that's the new hot thing, and a lot of people are going to be asking for that. So maybe it is worth spending time on. And then you can help them learn it. Like Justin said, then there's that give and take, right? Where you can make it worth it to them, or you can, hey, I really appreciate it, and then do something nice for them.
Charles, so it seems that from this conversation that we had, now that social skills are really important, right? Mm-hmm. It's all about relationships. It's all about reaching out, helping people. What about some people have a lot of difficulties with that? Some people have more difficulties in reaching out, and how can you overcome this issues? What are good tricks or ideas or anything like that?
For me, I mean, everybody's a little bit different. So, whatever it takes to motivate you is going to be different for me. For me, I just have to put a number out there, right? I'm going to reach out to so many people. If it's easier for you to do it in person, then, users groups at conferences are much better for that, but you just kind of have to be willing to go out and do it. If you're not good in social situations with other people, period, the end, then I have bad news for you. Software development has gotten complicated enough to where you will be working on a team with other people, and you need to learn to deal with other people. If you can't do that, it doesn't matter how good a programmer you are anymore. They'll eventually get tired of dealing with your garbage and they'll let you go. So, to a certain degree, you have to have a certain level of social skills. Now, as far as like having the gumption to go out and actually, essentially do a cold call or a cold email, most people see that as showing initiative, and most people are actually totally willing to help other people, especially if it doesn't cost them very much.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you offer to buy them lunch, it doesn't cost them very much and they get a free lunch, or you virtually buy them a coffee or whatever, same deal, right? And so then it also lightens a little bit of that social pressure because you've already reached out and offered to do something for them. And, and so you've already done something nice for them in exchange for them doing something nice for you. And that's what a lot of relationships are anyway. I mean, my wife and I, we do nice things for each other. And, it's not transactional. It's just the way it is. And a lot of these forms of outreach are very much the same way, right?
Yeah, I think as somebody, if you're not really comfortable like in social situations in general, that doesn't mean there's nothing that you can do. If you just start small, start by, just reaching out to somebody and introducing yourself on like Twitter or something. It's a relatively low barrier of entry. You don't have to have a upfront face-to-face conversation right away. And if you're not comfortable with even that, then find somewhere where you can contribute. Just like make yourself visible and available by the work that you do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that approach is good enough. Granted, it's just a little bit harder when you're, just passively producing things or passively participating to get that sort of like direct relationship going. So the biggest thing is just do whatever you feel comfortable with, but like challenge yourself to at least try, because most people aren't. Maybe they'll reach out to somebody and send them their resume and they're like, hey, this is me. I would like to work at your company. And, that's great and better than nothing. But try to do a little bit more than that. Try to be interested in the person and in the company and in the product. And if you're not, then maybe that's not necessarily the best place for you.
That's totally true. One part of the corporate research that I point out is, once you found these people, how do you approach them? And, sometimes that direct approach that we talked about earlier is there. But you can also send them an email. Hey, I read your blog and I really like this post. Or, hey, I saw that you posted to the users groups forum and I thought your insight was particularly, interesting this way or that way. And you can strike up a conversation about code, and then you can move the conversation to where they work and how that all works. And so, it doesn't have to be a direct sort of a cold call, sales call. It can happen in stages. You retweet their stuff, you tweet back at them. If you do that enough, people will notice you anyway.
Yeah, one of the things I would also encourage people that might be listening, if this kind of the things that we're talking about don't really resonate or they don't feel like you, that's okay. If our experiences don't match the experience that you have, that's okay. But be honest with yourself. If you really want a position somewhere, do what you can, but really try. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing that you can do, is make sure that you put in more effort than just people who are applying on their website. If you're just applying on a website and just submitting your resume, you better have a daggone good resume, is all I can say. Do something, and that will benefit you over just doing the bare minimum.
That's definitely true. I do just want to point out, though, that hiring is a social and emotional decision for the person hiring. And so the more personal you can make it, the better chance you have of getting hired.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have the natural ability to do this, or you don't have the drive to go out and do this, even though it might be hard for you, it's not going to be as effective as somebody else who actually goes and does the social relationship building and things like that. But if you go above and beyond and nobody else does, you put yourself in a much better position than everybody else. Well, I'm just going to let people know you can get the book at getacoderjob.com. I also have a video course that goes with it. So check that out. And yeah, let's go ahead and do some picks. Justin, do you have some picks for us? Is your job search stuck? Maybe you're not getting any interviews with employers. Or maybe you are, but no job offers. Or you may be new and not even know where to start. This is Charles Max Wood, and I'm releasing a new course and ebook on how to find a job as a software developer. The course walks you through the process of finding the types of companies you want to work for, getting their attention, and putting your best foot forward as the candidate they want. I've coached dozens of developers in looking for jobs and have been able to help several people find jobs within 2 weeks to 2 months. So whether you're new to development, can't find a great job that fits what you want, or are looking for remote work from an area without a strong tech community, I can help. Go to getacoderjob.com and sign up today.
Oh, man. So I've been working on some documentation stuff at RC, and we've been using DocZ, which is a documentation generator that uses MDX, which is a way to render React components and Markdown files, all the buzzwords. But it's a really cool technology, and it's a lot of fun to work with. And the other thing, my other pick would be there's a tool called Jasper. So Jasper is now an open source app, but essentially it's an Electron app that helps you manage your GitHub notifications. So if you do a lot of open source work or you're on GitHub a lot, then Jasper can be a real lifesaver. I have currently 800 unread notifications in GitHub, and there's no way in the world I could go through all of those. So I have like feeds set up to like really filter out things. It's a huge help. I'll post the links. That's all I got.
Awesome. Lucas, what are your picks?
Yeah, Justin almost gave my pick away today. My pick, the last 3 talks I built my decks using MDX deck, which is a really great tool. And it lets you create presentations with just one markdown file. And it's actually an MDX file. So it's a markdown file that accepts React components. So it's really easy to just import stuff. So it's easy to do like interactive. Sometimes you want to post like an example of what you're doing in your presentation, an iframe and stuff. It's really straightforward. So that's my pick of the day. Like it's so much productive than actually using the usual presentation building tools. You get like 90% of what they give with 10% of the effort. So yeah, that's my pick of the day.
Awesome. Natter, what are your picks?
My pick is Watermelon DB. It's basically a database or a data store for React and React Native apps that kind of combines the goodness of what you might be used to with something like MobX as far as a in-memory store with a actual persistent store. So you can kind of have observable data that is available, and you can kind of like have it available. Like if someone closes the app, you still have it stored there. It's pretty cool. I'd definitely check it out. It seems to be catching some fire here lately.
Nice. So I'm going to do a couple of picks. I think I'm just going to pick a TV show today, and that is the Great British Baking Show, which is funny because I'm on a low-carb diet, but I love watching them bake stuff. So this last week they were doing basically pies, and that was just fun. The last week I watched anyway. The whole season's up on Netflix, and they think they've got like 6 seasons up there. So anyway, really enjoy that. My kids love watching it too, and that's always fun. So I'm going to pick that. And then I'm also just going to shout out again about Get a Coder Job. So if you're looking for a job, all of my advice is there. So go check it out. And yeah, we'll wrap it up there, and we'll catch everyone next week.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.